Hey everybody, it's Taylor with Boydston Grove, and today's going to be a little bit different because today we're replacing this, sorry excuse for a piece of storage, with this really nice cabinet, and we're going to use nothing but construction grade lumber. Let's get into it.
I'm staying. This is going to be good.
This video is sponsored by Gator Finishing Products. Let me give you a little background here. I'm in a really small private school, and here the teachers are under a pretty tight budget, so they use what they have on hand to get a job done. For instance, this teacher in particular looks like they are using an old upper kitchen cabinet minus the door and shelving for some extra storage in their bathroom, but I feel like we can do a lot better. So I'm gonna head over to the local home improvement store, pick up a couple 2x6s and some other materials, and get started on this project. Let's go. All right, we are at our local Lowe's home improvement store, so let's go inside and get what we need for this cabinet. While we're here, one of the main things we need is sandpaper. So we're gonna get some of this Gator sandpaper over here. Check out all the variety they have available. What we're mainly after is this Reptilion sandpaper by Gator. All right, we've got our supplies in hand, and now it's time to head to the shop. I based my dimensions loosely off the current cabinet in the space, which measured 12 inches by 15 inches by 30 inches tall. I started by cutting the 2x6s into the rough lengths of the legs, the apron pieces, and the shelf pieces. I want the legs to be a little beefier, so I split the pieces down to 2 inches wide on the table saw. I also made the pieces for the apron 2 inches wide, but I split them down the middle of the width of the 2x6, making them just under 3/4 of an inch thick. I want the back and two sides to be slatted, so again, keeping the thickness of the 2x6 as my width, I cut a bunch of strips to 3/8 of an inch thick. With all the pieces cut, I moved on to sanding using Gator's Reptilion sandpaper. I started with 120 grit and worked my way up to 220 grit. Let me take just a minute to tell you about today's sponsor, Gator, and their Reptilion line of sandpaper. What sets the Gator Reptilion sandpaper apart from the others is that it is 4 times longer lasting due to the active matrix technology, which is basically the cool pattern that they have going on here. That with the combination of their premium ceramic grain and their clog resistant finish. The Reptilion sandpaper is not only extremely durable, but comes in a wide variety of sizes to fit many different types of sanders. If you want to try out some of Gator's Reptilion sandpaper, you can pick it up at your local Lowe's home improvement store. Now back to our project. This Reptilion sandpaper made quick work of all the pieces. After looking them over, I decided the legs were too bulky looking for the size of the furniture piece, so I resawed them to 1.5 inch square. I also added a small taper on the bottom to one side of each leg. Then I used a chamfer bit in my router to add a chamfer to what will be the 3 outside corners of each leg. Ah, much better. I drilled pocket holes in the apron pieces because that's how they will attach to the legs. With all the frame pieces prepped and ready, it was time to move on to the top. By this time, I only had a small piece of a 2x6 left for the top, so I rummaged up some pieces of 2x4s from around the shop until I had enough pieces to make up the rest of the top. I trimmed all the pieces to remove the rounded corners and then resawed them to 1 inch thick. Because this top is going to be so small, I didn't use anything to join the pieces, I just glued them up. Once the top was dry, I used a card scraper to remove the excess glue, and then it was time to sand it down using more of the Gator Reptilion sandpaper. Ah, smooth as butter. I cut the top to its final dimensions and put a large chamfer around the bottom edge. Once I had the top sanded to 220 grit, it was time for assembly. I made sure to space the apron pieces in far enough to account for the slats that will go on the outside of the sides and the back. I assembled the two shelf frames with pocket holes and glue. Using some spacers to make sure my shelves would be evenly spaced, I installed the shelf frames with screws on the inside corners. Then I installed the shelf slats using glue and brad nails. I cut all the slats to their final length and then attached them using glue and brad nails. Last but not least, I added some adjustable feet that I picked up from the local hardware store. After all the nail holes were puttied and everything was sanded again, I attached the top using some L brackets that I had left over from when we used to refinish furniture. With everything assembled, I applied a few coats of spray-on lacquer, sanding in between each coat. Alright, our little bathroom storage cabinet is finished. Let's go over a few things real quick. Starting with the difficulty. I made this project way more difficult on myself than I needed to, simply from lack of planning. I pretty much just grabbed the 2x4s, headed into my shop and started cutting them up without actually laying out a plan. Now there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but if I had sat down and planned the project out properly, then I probably not only would have saved a lot of time, but I probably could have got away with just using the two 2x6s without having to add the extra 2x4s that I did. That being said, I still think it came out great. It was a really cost-effective project, and it really changes the overall feel and look of this small bathroom. As woodworkers and makers, a lot of time our objective is to try to sell the products that we make so we can make a living, but sometimes it's really nice to use your gifts and your abilities and skills to be able to bless those around you. A big shout out and thank you to Gator Finishing Products for sponsoring this video. If you want to check out their new Reptilion sandpaper or any of their other products, make sure to head over to your local Lowe's. If you don't have a Lowe's near you, then just hit the link below. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this project, and if you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can keep up with the new videos that we put out every week. Thank you very much for watching, be safe, and have a great day.